to just bill me. Hi, everybody. We're live. It's the end of the year. It's we're almost through with the holidays. I think we've all survived. All of us who are in the hangout anyway. So far. So yeah, actually, well, Laura, did you want to talk about this on the air? We were just talking before we went on about your hometown free separation of church and state issue here.
Well, I mean, I've been living in, we moved to Bedford Heights back in 2009. And it's a lovely community. It's very quiet. It's very well kept. I rave about the place because it's a lovely place to live. The problem is in the last calendar that came out, I've probably been getting these calendars since we got here and I never much paid attention to them. But the last calendar, we got this little message here from for December. And if you can read that, and if you're focusing, if my camera is the one that's being shown at the moment, you can see on the left side that it's not exactly a neutral message there. I went paging through the rest of the calendar and discovered that there's no mention of Passover, there's no mention of Hanukkah, there's no mention of Ramadan or anything else like that. But on top of that, we got this lovely little message at the top of the actual calendar page itself, which reads as follows: Christmas is spiritual and truly a family-oriented holiday. During this time of year, families take time to spend time with their loved ones. Christmas is a time of giving, as Jesus was given to man as a gift from God. Subsequently, Jesus gave up his life for the sins of man. So although many give handmade or store-bought gifts as a way to express love and appreciation, it all began with a sacrifice of a life in order to preserve our relationship with the Creator. If that is religion neutral, I will eat a hat I am not wearing.
Yeah,
it's a nice secular message.
It's like, oh, let's celebrate because this is the day that we think the baby was born that was going to grow up to be a human sacrifice to a bloodthirsty God. Happy New Year!
Yeah, we won't mention the fact that
let's celebrate it was him. Let's celebrate that it was him and not us. Thankfully, we didn't have to do that shit. God demanded a bloody sacrifice, and it wasn't me. Yay!
Yeah, I see that movie. I see Jesus Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, it was bloody as hell.
He sacrificed himself to himself, from himself to a situation he himself created in the first place. I mean, you get dizzy from that kind of circular logic. I mean, no, I would.
I know. Well, the funniest part to me when I think about that, we think about like how convoluted the whole Christ narrative can be when you look at it from the outside. It's like God lets things go on for thousands of years where they're sacrificing animals, and it's sort of, well, maybe you make it, maybe you don't, and then God finally steps in and he says, okay, I know the old system isn't so great. Don't worry. I've got a fix for it. and it makes it even worse. It makes it even more confusing. It's like, okay, no. There's going to be one great big sacrifice. Don't worry. I'll provide it to myself. It'll be me.
Okay. But we still hate gays, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But also,
except that him and his Jesus hat never said boo about the gays. Yeah. So I mean, you got some problem there. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to insert real quick is that, I mean, the number of times that Christopher Hitchens, sounded off on this very business, I have to laugh every time I think of it.
Yeah.
Because he goes, what's that wonderful line where he says 98,000 years spent with, God's arms folded, and then finally thinks, it's past time we intervene. And how are we going to do it? We're going to do it in some backwater area in the west coast of the Mediterranean.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of the way the aliens do it, right?
It's always where the least visible, the least educated population, the least access to mass communication. I know what we'll do.
Yeah, Israel and Fort DC had no mass communications. Oh, you get me wrong. Jeez. Well, and I must confess, I hate Jesus Christ Superstar. I never cared for that.
It's never been I'm not a fan of musicals anyway, but yeah, that would not be an exception.
Yeah.
Like,
so we're not going to see Steve and Stuffy musical.
I don't know. I mean, I have one of my. I'm buddies with a guy named Jason Brenet who is a musician and is just
The other
awesome.
Jason.
Yeah, the other Jason. And he's you know, he's super talented. And if I ever did want to do a Steve and Stuffy musical, he's the one I would tap on the shoulder and start begging to help me with it. Because I can't pay you and it'll be a lot of work, but please, I can write the lyrics.
Would the musical numbers be diegetic?
Yeah, exactly. That's what, because if it's the music's just coming from nowhere, that's, you know, come on. Yeah, we would all be, it would be like, you know, we'd all be singing karaoke. Just really specifically tailored karaoke songs.
I want a full album of just Toby Benson songs.
I did write. I wrote the full lyrics to Toby Benson's version of Silent Night. And it's pretty funny, I have to say.
You have to get him to sing the Tenacious D song. I don't remember what it's called, but with karate, I'll kick your ass.
Oh, yeah, it's called. I think it's just called Karate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Here to the Tiananmen Square.
Maybe you could do that as a patron. Only.
Toby Benson could take requests.
Yeah, you could do Santa Baby, except with him, it'd probably wind up being Santa Baby.
Santa Baby.
Yeah.
I'll do it as a.
That is one of your tiers. The $20 you get, like people who donate $20 to Steve Shives Patreon, which is like patreon.com/Steve Shives. They can get a 1 minute video for one of the Steve and Stuffy gangs for like whatever. That 1 minute could be of Toby Benson singing some like
Toby Benson. Yeah. Actually, I have
Hamilton.
I have to do one of those. I got a request from a $20 patron recently, and they want one with Millicent. So I'll have to talk to her. See if I'll probably have to split the $20 with her. She gets hers.
I came like, funny enough, in the middle of the night, I came up with an idea that I would really like to execute in the long term, which is basically a musical where the main character is the only one that realizes it's a musical, and they keep thinking it's their cue, but when they try to sing, the orchestra stops, and everybody looks at them weird. What are you doing?
There's a piece that's somewhat like that. Anybody here know it's not a musical, it's sort of it's a play with music called Every Good Boy Deserves Favor. It's set in a Russian mental hospital. And one of the characters thinks he is the conductor of an orchestra. Now, as it happens, I've actually seen this set with the Cleveland Orchestra. And the the orchestra, of course, participates in the midst of all this. It's in places it's funny, in places it is tragic as hell. Of course, it's Russia, so what do you expect? But and it was one of those things that I would have killed to have seen them recorded, because there was also something that a long time ago, CBS Sunday Morning did a piece on, and it just really went upside my head, because it was just, the concept was so neat.
You know, it also reminds me of the character in Monty Python and the Holy Grail who keeps trying to break into song, and they constantly keep cutting him off. No.
I actually turned it into a joke on stage too. I described the premise, and then after I say every time they try to sing, the music stops and everyone looks at them weird. And that's what it's like to have autism.
Wow.
Oh, well.
Like, nobody else got that? Must just be me. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I actually, it's weird. I did have a thought about a Steve and Stuffy musical, but it would be so much work, and it would be weird because I'm the only character who moves, you know. So it would be difficult to choreograph. I have decided. I'm pretty sure that next year's Christmas episode is going to be a riff on A Christmas Carol. And I think I've figured out the basic like structure of it, but you know, we're still a long way off from that.
I mean,
Or
we're
are
already
you gonna do It's a Wonderful Life with Stuffy?
Oh man, that would be a good one too. Yeah, maybe I can do that one the year after. Because yeah, I it just clicked. I was talking with Ashley about it the other day, and it all sort of clicked into place. So I know who's going to be Scrooge. I know who's going to be the ghosts. And it's just like, okay, I got this. Pencil it
Excellent.
in.
And of
Toby
course, don't
Benson
tell
was
us.
dead to begin with.
Go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, I was like, and of course, don't tell us, because part of the joy will be watching to see who becomes. It's like when the Muppets do it. They're like, who's going to play this character? And they're like, ah. So you're gonna have to keep that secret for a year. I would die.
Yeah, well, you know what I'll do? I'll do what I've been doing with the new show that is replacing An Atheist Reads. I'll just tell a few people in private, which is what I've done. Like I told Jason Harding about the new show that comes out on Friday. And I think I've told him about it twice, and I'm pretty sure the first time I told him about it, and then he forgot about it. And then I mentioned it to him again a few weeks later, and he was like, "Oh yeah, right."
Oh yeah, you're a little podcast.
So has everyone survived their holidays?
Yeah,
Or at
pretty
least
well.
half of them?
Yeah, nice and easy here. I mean, we had the usual madness on the 24th when all of my wife's kids and grandkids come in.
Wow.
And it has the potential of being pretty crazy. The saving grace was they didn't all come in at once. We sort of did it in shifts, and that worked out well. And then Christmas Day was just my wife and me and the putty cats, and that's always great. And as I told you a couple of years ago, we do the Cornish hen thing rather than a full turkey, and that's great. And this past it was Friday. That's right. There was the thing that Cleveland Freethinkers did over on the west side that I went to, and that was just it was a potluck dinner and gift exchange and some entertainment like that there, and it was great.
Yeah, it sounds terrific to me. I know for me and Ashley went and visited with Christmas Eve morning. We always have breakfast with her parents, and we did that again with her parents and her sister and her sister's husband, and then Christmas Day we went and visited some of my family for a couple hours, and then came back and had the rest of the day to ourselves. So, that's great. I'm not a big person for like huge family get-togethers, and we've been skipping out on those for the last several years, and I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah. Christmas Day was just a day off for me, and okay, brothers, here's your gifts. Here's your gifts. Oh, here's my gifts. Video game, anime. Okay. And then we all went back to our own rooms and
played video games.
We actually played Smash Bros. Together. That's the only thing we did together. But eventually we stopped and then we went back to our own rooms and do our own things. And that was Christmas. Because Christmas dinner was actually on Boxing Day, the day afterwards. That one was more interesting. I prevented someone from drinking a whole wine glass of like hard liquor.
Oh my God.
They already had 4 or 5 shots then, and my stepmom already finished a whole wine glass of like Crown Royal vanilla, and I didn't want the other guy to like pass out of alcohol because of that. So I was like, no, I don't want to see someone get alcohol poisoning while I'm here. So I grabbed the glass from someone else, and that's what I did.
I had a fantastic Christmas Eve followed by a odd Christmas where I had to work in a place where I had to supervise people who were not allowed to leave and see their families for Christmas. So,
yeah, that sounds like fun.
Not completely, but it's my job.
Wow. I was just thinking, Christy, did you hit up the Cologne Christmas market again this year? I remember a couple years ago you did a really cool YouTube series about that.
I did. I actually made a video about a new drink that I found while I was there. It's on my channel. It was at the... Sorry?
Pumpkin
the
spice
apple
latte?
strudel?
Yeah, the apple strudel liqueur. Oh, it was so delicious. I actually bought a whole bottle. It's sitting in my living room.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes. And it is really nice, because the days get dark so soon. By 4 o'clock, it's already dusk,
Yeah.
And so it is kind of cheery on my way home to just sort of wander over. There are the soft Christmas lights and the smell of food and all different kinds of, drinks and candies and gifts and the bandstand and a massive Christmas tree. And then they drape lights coming down from the top of the tree. So it forms like a light canopy you can stand under and just have a little blue vine and then go home. It's so nice.
Yeah, it sounds really, really cool. And when you made those videos about it a couple years ago, it just was like, oh man, that looks so awesome.
Well, come and visit.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just hop a plane to Germany.
Hey, she came to see you.
Not specifically, but it just happened to work out. She had other business in the country, but
they're usually open.
It was cool.
They're open from like the 24th of November until Christmas Eve. And so you could, before the Christmas holidays, get a cheaper flight and just come by, and there's a bed for you and your wife can stay here. And yes, I mean.
Oh, right. You should bring your wife with.
Yeah, that would be. Hey, honey, I'm going over to Germany by myself for a few days.
Yeah. And then you guys can wander the city. You could go to Berlin if you wanted to, or go down to Bonn, or go to Frankfurt, whatever you wanted to do. It's all chill. Deutsche Bahn is relatively. There's also those buses that are even cheaper. You could probably get to Berlin if you wanted to on the cheapest bus for 20 or 30 euros if you go at night. It'd be a long trip, but they have Wi-Fi and you could sleep through a lot of it and be in Berlin, like the next morning. So
that sounds awesome.
It is. Europe is great.
It sounds great.
Where are you, Christy? Are you in Cologne or what?
Yeah.
Or Köln?
Yeah. I'm in Köln.
Köln.
Yeah. I'm about a 35 to 45, if you're being lazy, minute walk from the cathedral.
Ausgezeichnet.
Yeah, if I lean out my window, I can see it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been to Germany a couple of times, and it was both times, I believe it was Munich, and wonderful, laid back. I stayed in a hotel. Well, actually, the first time I stayed in a Gaststadt, which is sort of a not quite a poor man's hotel, but it was neat, and the people were just absolutely spectacular. And then same notation the second time I was there, although we didn't spend a lot of time in Munich. We drove down to Milan, where I had a service call to do.
It's weird that kind of, if you think of a country like, Spain, you think of like sort of hot weather and Spanish houses and warm kind of color climates, oranges and yellows. And Britain, you think of like, Big Ben and the history and, the Revolutionary War, whatever else the fights we had. And then France is like, the Eiffel Tower and French baguettes and love. And Italy is, like pasta and Rome and history and the Catholic Church. But Germany is kind of like a family style restaurant. I mean, it's not that exciting. Like, it's a really comfortable place to live, but I can see in terms of like coming here, you could see the Alps. I mean, they're really beautiful. And of course, there's big cities with interesting things to do, but because it's actually a younger country than America. It doesn't kind of have a brand like that.
Right? So, I mean, that could be good.
I remember driving down from Munich to Milan with my associate. We went through Austria, and of course, you're going through the Alps there too. And there were these chalets carved into the mountain. It looked like something out of a picture book or a storybook or something like that. I kicked myself. I didn't take any. I didn't have my camera with me, unfortunately, but it was just. And the thing is, all the countries you mentioned, Christy, there's so much more to them than each of those things. You can't stereotype any of them because there's so much variety in each of those countries, and they each have their own identity. It's amazing. My
God, what am I still doing here in America?
I mean, I was lucky. I did this for work. I mean, if it weren't for the one job I had, I probably wouldn't have seen half of this stuff. But I really, really lucked out.
Yeah.
Well, I think also you can be kind of tactical about these things because when I lived in America, I had the impression that when you go over to Europe, like flying around Europe or traveling around Europe would be really expensive. But honestly, once you get here, you can get insanely cheap, like short haul flights on Ryanair and kind of our version, I guess we would say, of Southwest, where they make more of their money from hauling things than from passengers. So recently I had to go to London for a meeting and I got a ticket to fly from Cologne to Stansted Airport for 20 euros. It was more expensive for me to take the train from Stansted to London than it was to get there.
Wow.
So, and there are a lot of places where if you just sort of like picked a time and found a cheap city to land in and kind of be your base, and then look where else, how you can use their airport cheaply to like find other short hop places, you can see a lot. If you're prepared to kind of fly at odd times and maybe, go to Pisa and then go from there to Venice as opposed to going directly to Venice. You might have to go to a nearby city and then take a train rather than go directly to get the best financial deal. But yeah, once you get here, it's not that bad. I mean, when my dad took me on holiday a couple of years ago to say, he comes and visits me for like 3 months at a time. So he takes me on a 2-week vacation to say thank you, and I don't mind. But we flew we ended up getting tickets down from Frankfurt over to Tenerife, which is in the Canary Islands, and a 10-day package for 10 days of hotel plus like the breakfast and the flight over for each of us was 550 euros.
That is what you call a steal.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was January. So it was, not the hottest time of year, but it was still like 72 degrees in January, and that's awesome. So anyway, I'm just, please come to Europe. It's a great place. Experience it once at least.
Let the people meet some more nice Americans.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Rehabilitate our national image abroad. Hey, we're not all assholes, please.
No,
the
hell of it is the people who most need to get exposure to that kind of eclectic background are the people who almost certainly will never do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
The people who could benefit the most, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we really as Americans understand how much bigger our country is compared to European countries.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the United States itself is the size of most of Europe. And that's like a whole bunch of countries there,
No kidding.
Yeah.
And there's so many languages differences and cultural differences and dietary difference in that short space.
Yeah.
And that's also kind of mind-blowing. And
yet most of it has lived in peace with itself for the last 70 years. It's just stunning. Like it always amazes me when people like in this country talk about how like, oh, diversity is bad because people can't get along and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, but I mean, ever since the Second World War, most of Europe has gotten along pretty well, despite their many differences in language and culture, etc.
They have 450 million people.
Yeah, it's almost like if you make an effort, it's incredibly possible,
Marty M just said in the chat, the UK says to Steve, hold my beer. There's still some outliers, but
fingers crossed that the UK can sort that out.
Are the British really Europeans?
Not no more. They did the Brexit thing.
I think the thing that screws that up is, I mean, Europe decided that it was a separate continent, even though it's totally not. Like Europe and Asia, that's all one continent, baby.
That's really weird. That's
but the Europeans drew the maps and they were like, yeah, we're our own thing. Yeah, and it doesn't make sense. Just forget it. We're our own continent. And
it's almost like national borders are just invisible imaginary lines on a map.
Well, yeah, especially I guess you could, because there are land connections between Asia and Africa as well. But it's like, but it's just a little bit. So Africa is mostly its own thing, but like Europe is just it's completely connected.
Smack up against it.
It's smack up against Asia, and it's like, but it's its own thing. Really, I can just see us trying to explain that to the aliens. The aliens show up and they're like, so you say there's 7 continents? Because 1, 2, 3. Oh no, that one's 2.
Yeah, but first you're going to have to explain Donald Trump to them.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
No, you just go, oh, okay, so you see there's white people, and white people need their own continent?
Yeah.
So we had to kind of like carve one out.
And they say they control the world, too.
People in Asia.
No, I just hope when the aliens come and they say, take me to your leader, somebody's smart enough to send them to Merkel. Don't send them to Trump. Say, no, you want the person you want is in Germany. Yeah. Yeah. No, they would go to they would go to Trump, and then Trump would send them to Putin.
Oh,
It's not me. It's not me.
Trump would try to build him a hotel and then send him to Putin.
Yeah. I'm kicking
I
this
just
one over my head.
imagine the thought process of anyone who actually had to like go through and think, should Donald Trump be the first human being this alien interacts with for a substantial amount of time? No.
You take a look at the madness that, I mean, how many different first contact situations has Star Trek and on other science fiction venues played with, and and how they they bust their ass 3 ways from Sunday to make it work right, and you're going to trust Donald Trump with this?
What I'd love to see is alien race showing up, talking to Donald Trump for like 5 minutes, and then one of them pulls out a TV remote and just mutes him, and then they say, "Can we get something?"
Who else? Come on. What other elected leaders do you people have? Anybody else?
Show me what you got.
I just want a mute button for Trump because I'm certain that would make him explode.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You can mute me. No, you can't mute me. Lock him out from his Twitter account.
Better yet, plunk him on a desert island.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, no audience, no Twitter feed, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. Well, I mean, give him all the food and supplies that he needs. Not that he'll know much about what to do with it other than burgers.
Well, and you'll come back in a week and he'll have a wife made out of coconuts and palm leaf mats.
I'm trying to check my Twitter followers. I need to know if I'm being retweeted.
Anybody else know notice the president never seems to get ratioed? Like whenever he says something really stupid, gets a lot of responses. There always seems to be enough people liking it too to make sure he's never ratioed.
Well, he has a million fans.
Never what? Right. Never ratioed.
Yeah, not on Twitter, not on Facebook, so I have no idea.
Well, it just means that like when you say something foolish on Twitter, and then everybody just kind of jumps on you and basically says, "Why did you say that? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Times like 10,000, Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
just a pattern.
Yeah,
I noticed.
But it's weird. Like it's interesting that like if he wasn't the president, I'm pretty sure Twitter would have banned him by now. But because he's the most powerful person in the country, it's like for some reason they've decided they have to just let him do whatever he wants. It seems like it seems backwards. Yeah,
there's a lot of people on Twitter because of Trump, either to yell at him or to praise him.
That's true.
Trump did kill their user base. So
yeah,
didn't the court rule that he can't block people?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
He doesn't have to unblock them, but yeah.
But no more blocking, Mr.
He
President.
can mute them, but he can't block them or something like that.
Yeah, he has to read. I would like for a court to rule that he must read every reply.
Ooh, Clockwork Orange callback.
Those are your constituents, Mr. President. You must read every reply.
The only constituents he hears from are the federal workers who call him to tell him to keep the government shut down until he gets the wall, apparently. I don't know who these federal workers are or how they got his number.
Those very real and numerous people who
if
are
you believe that one, if you believe that one, I got this Will Swell swampland in Florida. I'd love to sell you cheap.
Exactly. They said yesterday it's okay because most of them are Democrats. So
exactly. Well, it's just like whenever Trump says, people say, that means nobody's ever said that.
No,
people are saying that the wall is the best thing ever. Nobody's ever said that. As soon as he starts appealing to this imaginary, like, a lot of people say I'm the best president ever. A lot of people say it was the best State of the Union speech they'd ever heard. Nobody said that. Nobody's ever said that.
It was the largest crowds ever, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Also, when he says, "Believe me," he's lying.
Yes, he has the most obvious.
That's his biggest tell.
He has the most obvious tells of anybody. Like I mean, I used to think that the shitty YouTubers had the worst poker faces and were the worst at like keeping their shit together in public. But I think Trump takes that to a whole new level. It's like, can you? I mean, okay, you're an asshole. You're a nightmare of a human being. Can you at least keep your shit together in public? The answer is no. He can't. Like, it's not just that you're the biggest bastard on the planet. You can't help but throw a hissy fit in front of the whole world anytime anything doesn't go exactly your way. It's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like we're living under a king.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
King Joffrey.
Oh God.
I thought it was Lord Dampnut. What was his name?
Yes, Lord Dampnut.
Lord Dampnut. Yeah, yeah. Thanks to Colin Mockery for that. That was his deal, because it's Lord Dampnut is an anagram of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I just call him Twimp because I heard a interview with a linguist on NPR who was talking about the sort of subconscious cues that language has, and the triumph. Like, it's a powerful name, Trump. It feels powerful, and you can take that power away by just calling him Twimp.
I like President or unindicted
unindicted co-conspirator. Yeah,
that's it.
Individual one.
Speaking of the subconscious power of language, just if you guys have to take this in a completely different direction,
please.
When you were saying about triumph and Trump and how these words kind of go together, there's a great bit on YouTube. You can watch it. It's Darren Brown kind of hypnotizing Simon Pegg without hypnotizing him, just by asking him questions and talking to him about things in a certain way that he plants an idea in his mind. That's the goal of it. And he kind of hypnotizes him. Yeah. So Simon Pegg, Darren Brown, it's like a 6-minute segment. Go watch it. I don't want to say more than that because you should see it happen.
I think I watched that one last year. That is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good.
It sounds sexy.
It sounds sexy. I don't even know what he hypnotizes him to do. What does he hypnotize him to do?
Something with X in it.
You will now cluck like a chicken.
Something with X in it. I will say that.
You will now convince Chris Pine to sign on for another Star Trek movie.
Yes.
Dream on.
Please.
We can do better. In my opinion, we can do better.
Better than Chris Pine.
Oh, this is gonna get real.
I don't care. I mean, I've grown up. I think he's a really good. I think he's a really good Captain Kirk, and I would like. As a person who likes the new Star Trek movies, I would like to get at least one more out of this cast. It would be a shame if they only did 3.
Yeah. We have to recast Chekhov anyway, sadly, because the actor did they had an unfortunate accident, and so might as well recast Chris Pine in my opinion too. But that's me.
Well, just put Chris Pratt in there and see if anybody notices.
Chris Hensley. Just any Chris.
He's one of the Chris's. Chris Evans. He's not. He's probably stepping away from Captain America after this next one. So let him. Hey, you want to be Captain Kirk? Goes from Captain America to Captain Kirk.
Every time have a Captain Kirk with charisma again.
Chris Evans. Chris Evans as well.
Yeah. No, Chris Hemsworth.
Just every time or is Captain Kirk. Now there's a picture for you.
He played his dad already, so there'll be a resemblance.
Just every time it cuts back to him, it's a different Chris.
The most famous, Chris Christopherson.
But everybody keeps treating him like 35-year-old Captain Kirk. It'll be great.
That hair, though, man. That hair.
Yeah.
And the beard.
Use these CGI techniques that they did to bring back, Chris Farley was the joke at the end.
Yeah.
Oh,
Chris Farley.
And here I thought you were talking about Princess Leia Organa.
Yeah. Or somebody said Peter Cushing.
Yeah,
that's another example. I was going to be President Kennedy from Forrest Gump.
That's not where Kennedy is from, though.
Congratulations. How do you feel? I gotta pee.
The one thing they did not do with the new Star Trek that I wish they had done, because it would have added so much to it, and I always thought it was pivotal to the original, was chess.
That's true.
I mean, just the whole issue of chess between Spock and Kirk. I thought it added a real flavor to that, and it's just sort of the step that wasn't there with the new ones. I'm really kind of puzzled why they never went there with that.
So the new Kirk isn't a chess player.
He's a checkers player.
He's a go player.
Video game player.
Okay.
It is interesting that like for all the things positive I can say about those movies, especially the third one, they didn't really they just sort of took Kirk and Spock's friendship for granted. Like I guess they must have grown close between movies, you know what I mean? It's like we see them have like adventures together, and they obviously get along good, and they like each other, but it seems like they spend a lot more time in the movies having scenes between Kirk and McCoy to establish their friendship. And Kirk and Spock don't really have those like friendship scenes. They have them, they're in adventures together, and they have a great deal of respect for each other that we can see, but they don't have the, oh, hey, they're really friends scenes, as much as you would think.
They should drink together. Come on. I want to see Spock drunk.
Romulan ale.
Ironically, there's a video game that takes place after the first Star Trek that like the only thing it does right is the banter between Kirk and Spock, and it actually does kind of establish that, but gameplay wise it's terrible. So
I think it's for I guess it's just the way things ended up going. It's like I feel that the Kelvinverse movies are going to wind up just sort of being this weird kind of side trail in the franchise, because they don't like, I know that they've set a couple of video games in that series, and they've published some comics and some novels and stuff, but it feels like that series is kind of winding down now. They might not even do another movie. It depends on contract negotiations and stuff. And it's like, oh, that was interesting. And then they'll just sort of veer back, because now, Discovery takes place in the Prime universe. The new Picard series is coming out. They're doing a bunch of other stuff like that's back in the main line, universe. And the Kelvin movies are just going to be sort of an interesting diversion, like, oh, that was neat.
Star Galactica 1980.
Yeah, it's like, remember that? That was neat. Whatever. Anyway, back to
Galactica 1980. Gag me.
just wait until like 5 series is after Discovery where they come up with an explanation for why the Klingons look different in that.
See, that's the thing. I would never explain any of that. If I were in charge of Star Trek fans would hate me so much, because I would it's just different. Deal with it.
My partner actually did a really nerdy thing earlier this week. They had a Klingon opera, at one of the theaters here, and they redid the Christmas Carol, except it was in Klingon. And they exchanged Scrooge's like money for like valor and honor. But the three ghosts, the first ghost of Christmas Past looked like the Klingons from the original series. The one from Christmas Present looked like Worf, and the one from Christmas Future looked like the one from Discovery, from the movies, where they're all like shiny and gold. And
that's awesome. That's perfect.
Can I just take a moment to give a Firefly shout out or Serenity shout out to Mr. Universe there on the T-shirt?
Yes.
Oh, I actually thought that was a Steven Universe reference.
It is a Steven Universe shirt, but I like both of them, so it works.
It works for both.
What was Mr. Universe's mantra? The truth is in
Can't stop the signal.
You can't stop the signal, exactly, yes. From me to the eyes and the ears of the universe. That's my motto, if I had a motto.
If every pork chop was perfect, there wouldn't be hot dogs.
That's a poem.
More people need to watch Steven Universe.
I probably should. There's a lot of things I need to watch, and like Chrissy on Twitter has said, "Hey, Summer and a Geek, you're an anime fan. You have Netflix, don't you? What are some recommendations on Netflix?" And I was like, "Oh, geez, okay, let me watch all of the anime on Netflix first, and then I'll give you I can give you some recommendations now.
Steven Universe, I absolutely love. I mean, I love Steven Universe. One of the main things that I really love about Steven Universe is because it's directed at children. At least I believe it is. And it doesn't like the relationship interactions are not cut and simple. Like, okay, there's a conflict, but it gets solved by the end of the episode. There's like an arc, a several episode arc where Steven really upsets his best friend, and then he has to come to terms with the fact that he really upset her, understand how he upset her, and then he has to realistically figure out how to. And it all happens realistically.
Yeah.
Like Space Aliens, so win-win.
I was thinking that I had that thought when I was watching the new She-Ra on Netflix. Is that because I thought I had this pang of jealousy because I thought, man, our cartoons weren't this good when we were kids. Like this is like legitimately good. It's not just like, oh, isn't that cute, or oh, I watch it and I enjoy it because I'm 5 and I don't know any better, and when I'm 30 I'll watch it again and I'll see how bad it is, but I'll still appreciate it for nostalgia, whatever. Right. Like me with He-Man, it's like I can detect all of the numerous flaws. I'm like, wow, they're, in many ways this is quite poor.
By the way, like a call back to your He-Man thing.
Sorry, what were you saying, Chris?
Sorry, I call back to your He-Man video. Like, what was it? 10 stupid things about He-Man.
Yeah.
The end part where you did the show wrap up and the PSA part. I absolutely love the part where you just apropos of nothing turn to the camera and if an adult that you don't know touches you in an inappropriate way, be sure to tell an adult right away.
Could we make that a different adult right away?
Yeah, not the same adult, obviously. A different adult. But yeah, like the She-Ra cartoon is legitimately great. And it's like, man, kids today have actual good cartoons. Like this is, good for them. It's great, but
I had actual good cartoons too. The Animaniacs, the Tiny Toons,
that's true.
Batman the Animated Series, Gargoyle.
Yeah, but you were 20 when those came out. So.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I grew up with Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, and now some of the early stuff like Rough and Ready and who's the other mouse and cat combo? And I'm blanking on
Jerry?
I'm sorry.
Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry, of course. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't quite the stilted, Hanna-Barbera style. And then you got Filmation, which is almost as bad.
It's basically just still images with like an arm, they have the same
and the moving background.
Hey, Chuck Jones did some Tom and Jerry, so
I know he did.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry was through more hands than I care to count. I've seen at least 4 different styles of animation, including one which is clearly Japanese. Yeah. They went through a few hands back in the day, but I'm almost without an exception, they were always funny.
The movie was not, but then again, the movie just did fail to understand what Tom and Jerry was all about. Anyway,
well, the movie was trying to cash on what had gone before. Of course, I mean they were in it for the money.
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was during that period where they were making, they were doing like big budget or at least semi big budget animated versions of a bunch of old cartoons. They did the Jetsons movie, which I don't remember all that fondly.
I saw enough of the Jetsons movie not to watch all of it and to determine I wasn't going to watch anymore.
I had the same feeling about the Flintstones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, the weird thing about that is like when they did that live action Flintstones movie, the first one with John Goodman, and I was like,
they did another one.
They did another one after that. Yes,
they did a second one. Yeah, I think it might have been. Was it direct to video or was it just?
It's a prequel.
Yeah.
No, I think it actually went to theaters. Just
okay,
it did for
like a week because it was terrible.
Yeah, I remember, and Stephen Baldwin played Barney.
Yes, he did.
So, how the mighty have fallen.
Somebody threw him
talking
a
about
bone.
The Flintstones. Well, it was his long-awaited follow-up to Biodome.
Yes, exactly. He did Biodome right after he did The Usual Suspects. So
that's
Stephen
man.
Baldwin Stephen Baldwin's not the best choice of like career, and he recognizes that as well.
You know that your movie career has not gone well when Billy Baldwin is looking down on you for the choices you've made.
Alec Baldwin said it to Stephen himself. That's the quickest way to make career suicide, to make Biodome right after Usual Suspects. And Stephen just like, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Don't make Biodome. You're making a terrible mistake.
Well, no, the fact is, making Biodome at any time is a good way to commit career suicide.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But
well, Biodome had Pauly Shore in it, did it not?
It sure did.
Yes. I was going to say that the other way to commit career suicide, do anything with Pauly Shore.
That's one of the frustrating things about Boise as a comedy audience. They will come out for big names, even though they're not at all funny, like Pauly Shore.
Yeah.
And just crowd the club. And when Pauly Shore was at the club that I go, or the comedy club that I go to, the woman in the audience in the front, he at one point grabbed the back of her head and like shook his hips as if he was simulating
classy.
And he got really, really drunk, and he made he pulled a waitress on stage and forced a kiss upon her, and she ended up crying. So,
whoa,
screw that guy.
That answers my question. Yeah. That answers my question of what's Pauly Shore's stand-up act like. There we go.
It's basically just blah blah blah, something about weasel.
Oh god, it's like. He did like a political special, like a political comedy special 6 or 7 years ago, and I watched it because Nathan Rabin wrote a review of it on his website and made it sound just absolutely terrible, and I thought, well, I've got to check this out, and it was on Hulu, so I didn't even finish it. Like, I didn't even watch the whole thing. I watched like the first 10 minutes, and
you watched The Room how many times?
The Room, hey. I'll watch The Room now. Okay, I'll watch The Room right now. The Room is one of my favorite movies to watch. But no, I watched it with the Pauly Shore thing. It was dire. It was so bad. There wasn't like a laugh. There were barely even any jokes. You know, it's like, at least it's somebody makes a joke and it's not funny, but you at least recognize that it is a joke. Like in this Pauly Shore thing, it's like, where are the jokes? Like, what?
It's standing on stage.
It's like they just, like something will happen and then there'll be like a pause and it's like, oh, they're pausing for a laugh. Oh, Jesus, that's embarrassing. It's like, that's not funny.
Yeah, that's pretty much the impression that I got after like watching for 10 minutes. Is he?
Oh.
Why are people laughing?
Why am I watching this?
He's not. Those aren't jokes. Why are you laughing? Don't laugh just to make him feel better.
He should feel bad. He should feel bad.
Don't laugh just to make him comfortable. That's not the way this is supposed to work.
Your comedy is bad, and you should feel bad.
Yeah. What about Zoidberg?
Do you remember the Dana Carvey special that was on ABC in the 90s?
Oh yeah, the Dana Carvey show. Yeah,
there's a Hulu documentary about it that is fantastic. Highly recommend it.
I've been wanting to watch that. I saw that was out, and I remember watching that show when it was originally on. And then
it's great.
Yeah, and there's so many great people were on that show. Steve Carell was on that show, and Colbert. I mean, it wasn't. I think. Was it Bob Odenkirk? Maybe. There were a bunch of like super funny people that were on that show.
It's called Too Funny to Fail.
Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Thanks for reminding me about that.
I think I only remember. I think I only know of that from an interview that Colbert did of Dana Carvey.
Yeah, just a few weeks back. It feels like who knows how long it actually was.
It was 6 years ago. Feels like it was a few weeks ago. Yeah, and I think when Colbert got that job, like he was basically broke. Like he was out of college, and I think I think he's told the story on his show a couple of times. Like he was doing stuff with the Groundlings, but he wasn't like working. And then he got the Dana Carvey show. It was like his first like big professional showbiz job. and it basically saved his life. You know, like he was going to have to just quit and go get like an actual job. He wasn't making it in show business at all, and then he got on that show, and it was, you know, I mean, not straight up, obviously, because the show got canceled after like 5 episodes. But
yeah. I can't remember the Steve Colbert brought up a sketch that made him think like, okay, they're not going to rein us in at all. This is not a good sign. But I don't remember the sketch that he described.
If they let us do whatever we want, this isn't good. Somebody has
we're going
to
to hear from standards and practices any moment now.
Somebody has to have the power to tell us no.
Oh, that was the genius / the thing that made much of Mr. Show with Bob and David terrible. like its ups and downs are so wide because they like didn't stop them from any kind of sketch.
Yeah, like there was nobody to say
Although if you do that, you get genius sketches like that gangster sketch where the boss got pissed off when somebody came up with a new number.
Oh, that is I just watched that on YouTube the other day. That is so funny. Like,
I love that.
24 is the highest number. It's like, where do you even come up with this shit? And they commit to it, and they just riff on it for like 8 minutes. It's like, how do you do this? There's not even a joke there. And yet they milk it for every laugh they possibly can get. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Until 50 gallons are withdrawn.
No, 24.
That's true. That show did have there was massive inconsistency, but when it was funny, it was just
so good.
Damn, yeah. Kind of like David Cross in general. Like I feel that way about David Cross's stand-up. Like sometimes he goes off and I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? But then when he really gets he gets onto something, oh man, he cracks me up.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I heard this guy was bitching behind me, and I listened carefully, and he was going, "Hi Hitler, yeah, hi Hitler," and I had to rewind. And did you say hi Hitler? This guy actually thinks that that's just thousands of people were going, "Oh, hi Hitler,
hi Hitler." Look, everybody. Look who it is. Hey,
it's
I know
Hitler.
That guy. I know that guy. Well, because in that you watch those archival films, whenever Hitler would do it back, he would always go, "How you doing?" Heil Hitler. Hi.
I'm getting so worked up. He was going, "Yeah, hi, all right."
Yeah, guys, I see you. God. It's too bad Indiana Jones didn't kill him when he had that chance in Last Crusade. Mm-hmm. He should have. Yeah. He got his autograph. He should have grabbed that pen and stuck it right in his eye. Come on, Indy. Whose side are you on, man?
All right, everyone. Well, I'm gonna have to get going because I've got a show that starts at 5 minutes after the hour. I'm gonna set some things up, but it was lovely to see you all and have a chance to chat. And I hope you guys all have a good year or a good new year, or as they say here in Germany, Guten Rutsch, which means to slide. So imagine sliding on some ice from like 1 year into the next. It's kind of like that. So like Guten Rutsch alle. All right.
All right. Thanks, Christy.
Okay. Bye.
Vielen Dank.
And as the way German words go, like misery bacon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as Christy leaves, I'm going to now interrupt and recommend a anime, and I'm going to quickly screen share now because in theaters next month, January 28th and 31st, it's a movie called The Silent Voice. The movie, because it's based off of a manga, it's one of my favorite animated movies in the past 5 years, and so as a big recommendation for me, if you're able to see it, if it's in the theater or near you, this movie made me cry. I mean, I love this movie so much. I think it's better than Your Name, and that's high praise for me.
Hey, my name is a damn good name, don't you? You son of
you bastard!
The Makino Shinkai movie.
My name was my father's name.
I'm named after my mother. She's Joan. I'm Jonathan.
I'm actually not. As far as I know, I'm not actually named after anybody. I think. My brother is, but I'm not.
I'm named after 2 people, my grandfathers.
Oh,
Yeah.
And my first and middle name was each one of my grandfathers.
Well, no, I take that back. My middle name is named after somebody, but I don't think I don't think there was a Steve in our family before me. But my middle name is based on from my great grandfather and my great great grandfather.
My mom said
what's your grandmother's maiden name? Just
yeah. Or do you want to see if I'm a robot? Is this like a CAPTCHA thing?
My mom told me that she gave me the middle name Michael because even though she didn't know, I think it was my great grandpa's middle name, it was M, and she wanted me to have his initials.
Yeah, my mom wanted me to have her initials. I'm John. I'm Michael too. As my middle name, Jonathan Michael Scott. So you can call me Johnny Mikey Scotty. Thankfully, no one does that.
Johnny Mikey Scotty.
I'm named after.
Well, you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, or you can call me Johnny, or you can call me Ray. But it doesn't have to call me Johnson.
My first name is my grandfather's middle name, and he named himself because his parents couldn't settle on a name whenever he was born.
Wow, that's a story. That's a great story.
Yeah.
All right, can't pick a
his
name.
birth certificate said little boy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's indecisive.
Yep.
Yeah, you couldn't pick a name.
So, if anyone knows anything about Louisiana history, Huey Long, the very tyrannical governor, So my grandparents are Longs, but not those Longs. And his father wanted to name him Huey, and funny. His mother said, "Over my dead body, you're not naming him after that piece of trash." So they on the birth certificate they wrote "Little Boy Long." And when he went to college and joined the army, they said you can't be named Little Boy. You have to come up with a name before we admit you. So come back tomorrow.
Holy shit! Yeah, that's a great story.
That is the best thing.
That's a great story. So
his first name Leonard was his father's best friend. But Bowman, my name, was a drunk guy down the road because you couldn't find another name would be. So I'm named after a drunk stranger down the road.
That's fantastic. That's like the best name story I've ever heard.
It's great.
Wow.
I can't wait. 20 years from now, your father's going to say, "Wait, you believed that?"
No, dude, that wasn't true.
Well, everyone who knows the truth is dead by now, so it's the truth now. So.
It's the truth. You can't prove it. That's a great.
A lie that everyone believes. A lie that everyone believes is as good as the truth, I guess.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Garrickism.
I was running the game of D&D, and I introduced one of my NPCs with a clearly fake name. He introduced himself as Namde, short for Namde Plume. And none of the players got it, and they just called him that from then on. Like, that's clearly a fake name, guys.
Namde. That's awesome.
Well, they're not going to see this coming then.
And one thing I'd never known anyone to get about Blazing Saddles is Lepidamine was the name of a famous. I'm not sure where he performed, but he was famous for being a musical farter.
I knew there was something associated with that. I just never did the research on what. I mean, because Mel Brooks doesn't do anything like that without a reason.
No. Yeah. Even if it's just, it'll only crack up him and like 2 other people.
Right in Kafka?
Lepidamine and his fantastical farts is what the article is named.
Can you imagine his parents? What does your son do?
He's very famous.
Well, he's a musician.
He is an author of The Wind.
Yeah. There you go. That's like what Stan Lee used to tell a story that, as with all of Stan Lee's stories, it was probably half bullshit, but that was what we liked about him, right? He said that like in the 50s and 60s when it was disreputable to be a comic book person, like nobody, that was a very disrespected field. So when he would be out on like a social occasion and people would ask him, "What do you do for a living?" He would say, "Oh, I write for magazines." Like, oh, cool.
Technically true.
Yeah. And these days he could say he was a graphic novelist.
There you go.
I mean, now does that have some nice bulge on it? Of course
I'm telling
it does.
you. Hey. I write graphic novels. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of which, is any how much did anyone love the cameo in the Spider-Verse movie?
I
I
did.
haven't seen it.
Oh, Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie.
Oh,
period.
so good.
Yes, I'm going to see it again this Friday because my dad hasn't seen it, and yes, I'm going to see it again for sure. No
The
problem.
story was great, but even if it didn't have a good story, it was beautiful. Absolutely.
It's much more of a true comic book movie than, like, say, any of the other movies. Well, the other movies are just based off of comic books. This feels like you're flipping through the pages of a comic book with the vibrant colors, with like the word bubbles, and how the scenes transition and stuff like that. A much better concept to a finished product than like the Ang Lee Hulk movie, in my opinion, as well. And I like the Ang Lee Hulk movie as it tried to do some like
it tried to mimic comic stuff. Yeah. I'll have to go see it. I haven't seen Spider-Verse yet. But I haven't read like a bad review of it yet. So
I have also seen Aquaman, and Aquaman is not as good as Wonder Woman, but better than the rest of the ECEU. So if you're only if you're interested,
it cleared that very low bar.
Yeah, let's just be careful not to damn with faint praise, huh?
Exactly.
It's better than Justice League. So I liked it better than Justice League. So that's
and that's peculiar too, because I've actually bothered to watch Justice League at least twice, and it sort of grows on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Or maybe it's just Stockholm syndrome. Maybe it's just this has to be good.
Not.
This can't be bad, right? It's a Justice League movie. It can't be bad.
Right?
Renegade I'm watching is doing like it must be good.
The thing is, as it comes to any of those things in the DC universe, I'm perfectly happy to wait for them to show up on HBO, which they will, because mostly they're in Warner Brothers, and HBO and Warner Brothers are like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're over the hour. I want to wrap this up. I don't want to step on Christy's toes because she's doing an event. She said starting at 5 minutes after the hour. So I'm going to close down shop. Thanks to all you guys who are in here with me. I appreciate seeing you every month. Thanks to everybody who's a patron at my Patreon page. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to support me, help me keep doing what I do. I appreciate all of you. And we'll do this again next month. So happy New Year, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy New Year.
Happy 2019, Steve.
Happy 2019 to you, my friend. And
Happy
we'll see you next time.